Before I go on to agricultural fabrics, I just wanted to go through very quickly the process that we do so that you get a better idea of what has just been shown to you. So what we have is the raw material, which is HDPE. You can take if you want to, just pass it around and I'll get it on that side. It consists of, basically, it's a petroleum product, a byproduct of petrol. What they do is they create the plastic bead. We take that plastic bead and we actually melt it. We melt it in a very specified oven. And then what happens is this particular bead, it has a proper, let's say, a melt flow rate that allows us to extrude it, meaning we form it into a thread. That thread is then taken and it's stretched even further. So I've got samples of that. Just pass that around and I'll carry on with the next one. So the thread itself is basically a piece of, this is one thread itself. But before I pass it around, I want you guys to destroy this today. This thread is actually very thick and it breaks very easily. Okay, very, very easily. However, in the process that they showed you, if you take the thread and you heat it up and you pull it very slowly and you pull it to a certain point, so that's how much it's stretched. And at that point, it's a lot more stronger. It has a breaking strain of 3 kilograms at that point. If you want to, you can pull a piece out, stretch it. That's what it looks like. That's the monofilament. And when it is annealed, it will actually cut your fingers. So please be careful that it doesn't slide and cut your fingers. So that thread is the actual strength of the fabric. If you look at the fabric, you'll see a pillar stitch, which are your lines in your fabric. A very simple, if a person looks at it, you'll see the back of the fabric. There are lines in the fabric. That's the strength of the fabric itself, known as pillar stitches. And then to fill the gaps and to create shade, they do what they have with the blown film. You saw a big tube that they spoke about, a balloon. That fabric, that tube is then cut into strips, and then it's cut into further strips that look like that. This particular thread, or yarn, sorry, has the ability as well to stretch, and it will break very easily. But when you heat it up, it gets to a point, again, can I pass that around to you? Also, destroy it, please. It gets to a point where it has been stretched completely. You can try and break it. It will break. It will break at about 3.5 kilograms. And that is also the tape yarn. Okay, so that's the tape yarn that's been stretched. So this process takes about 7 days from the time that you take your first bead and you put it into the machine until it becomes a fabric. So it's not as if you can quickly just make a particular color. You have to make the yarn, you have to make the tape, and you have to make enough tape for it to fit on 3 meters wide, and then you need to make enough of it to make 3,600 meters of fabric. So it becomes a very large quantity of raw materials that's needed. And that process will take up to 7 days before it becomes a finished product at the end. All right, so that's the general process of the extrusion process. To give you the color, that orange that's floating around, you see the orange? That is the amount of orange master batch that is added to get that color. So it has almost no orange particles in it, but it will give you that color. So in the master batch, the colorant, the piece that you'll see that's going around, that's black in the other sample, and this is red. What you'll see is that has the UV stabilizer that we specify. And we specify with the raw material manufacturer exactly which one we want. So Multiknit has a theory and a belief that if you put in poor quality raw materials, what comes out at the end is a poor quality fabric. And that's when you get companies selling it for, the fabric for much cheaper. They've used cheaper polymers. They've used cheaper master batch. They've used a cheaper UV stabilizer. And you have to be careful because the fabric looks fantastic. But after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, it starts to degrade. So that's the thing about Multiknit. We stick to the best colorants, the best UV stabilizers, the best polymers. We don't sacrifice anything for it. If we want quality at the end, we've got to use quality to start. You can't start with rubbish and end with quality. Doesn't work. All right. So what we make with these fabrics depends on the amount of fabrics or amount of yarns that we actually knit together. So we'll start with SpectraNet. There are a couple of swatches on the tables. The SpectraNet, I think, is only on the back 2 tables. They start with a very lightweight fabric. It's used for things like grapes and oranges, etc. And it will carry on all the way up to about a code 80, which is for anthuriums, which is for palms, which is for ferns. So it's a much